Good day, everyone. My name is Abigail. As a group, we have chosen to do the artist Donatello and have chosen to do his sculpture David, which was created in the Italian Renaissance period and was created between 1430 and 1440. The statue of David is made from bronze and is depicted to be nude besides the hat and boots. We will be discussing the analysis, the overview of the era, and the history of Donatello and the sculpture David itself.
It is believed that Donatello was instructed by Cosimo de' Medici in the 1440s to sculpt the David. The David was the first nude male sculpture, which made it controversial. The sculpture stood in the Medici's courtyard and moved from time to time and ended up in the Bargello Museum.
Objective description of Donatello's David. David was shown as a king due to the status he holds in the Old Testament. However, there is an unembellished change in the way David, is depicted. Not only do you see the nudity, but he is also made to look younger. In the Middle Ages, nudity was not commonly used in art with the exception in certain moral frameworks. But in the classical world, nudity was frequently used in a different, grand context such as with the figures who were athletes, gods, and or heroes. But here our artist Donatello seems to be comparing David to heroes or athletes but not necessarily a god. David is represented at a triumphal point in the biblical narrative of his victory by defeating Goliath.
Analysis of David art elements. The David is cast in bronze and is nude. The focal point is the face because it disrupts a strong line as well as he looks cheekily down. The David creates an exciting atmosphere. The face is particularly important because even though the young boy has killed Goliath, he looks down at his body. The balance of the figure is asymmetrical because the figure is bent to the left. The hat is very decorative and complements the long, effervescent hair. Both the hat and the hair in conjunction with the facial expression shows that individuality of the individual, which is an important characteristic in Renaissance art. The light falls directly to emphasize the muscular body. The body parts are naturalistic. Overview of time period and Renaissance put into context. Renaissance is the period from 14th century to 16th century. The period starts in the country Italy and developed further from there. The term often used is rebirth. The Renaissance spread all over the world and included many fields, not just art. Rich families would buy art. This is known as a commission. For example, the Medici family. Unlike the era before, medieval, the Renaissance used depth and perspective. In the medieval times, the important part was the fact that they used religious and rules in their artworks, whereas the Renaissance used new thinking, individuality. Donatello. Donatello was born in Florence, Italy, 1386. He was born into a family of a tradesman and allowed him to go into that field. Donatello was fortunate to learn his skills at the expense of the Martili's family. He had learned new techniques closely related to art through a goldsmith. He was fortunate enough to apprentice an artist called Ghiberti. This allowed him to create the baptistry cathedral doors. There was great rivalry between Bricilli and Donatello. Donatello's work. Donatello used innovative ideas that contributed to the revolution of art. Famous for bronze sculptures, namely the David. Donatello shows the David's expression and the way he stands that he added character to his artwork, which shows the idea of individuality, personality, and beauty. Donatello had many great works, for example, Judith and Holofernes and Saint Mark.
The sculpture is portrayed as a young David, assumed to be king of Israel. The story goes that David defeated Goliath. He hurled his stone from his sling and hit Goliath's forehead, and Goliath fell dead. This statue is a symbol of triumph. It resembles that David is a young man and defeated a man twice his size. This is a story of hope. The story of David are also familiar with Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Meaning and interpreting visual elements. The main idea was to basically bring the statue to life, hence he made it nude. The figure was a contrapposto, which means it is an asymmetrical arrangement of the human figure in which the line of the arms and shoulders contrasts with, while balancing those of the hips and leg. For a small city like Florence, which was threatened by conflicting city-states such as Siena and Milan, the gutsy warrior boy David was an idyllic emblem, and it does seem
I definitely have a love-hate relationship with this artwork. Analyzing the sculpture has given me a better understanding of the meaning and significance of it. The sculpture has had an effect on both me as a person and of how I view art. If I was looking at the sculpture on the pedestal in the courtyard when it was first created, I would feel very inferior because of its size. The sculpture of David standing on Goliath's decapitated head allows us to feel like we are part of the victory that day. To conclude, the artwork David was one of many famous artworks made during the Renaissance times. These artworks and artists from the Renaissance period showed a newfound form of expression and creativity. David was made like many other artworks as a tribute to a former hero or athlete. These artworks are still studied today, as during the Renaissance times, the tools that artists had today were not available.